When my uncle invited me for coffee, I didn't expect him to drop a family-shattering secret that had been buried for over 20 years. Now I'm caught between keeping my parents' trust and exposing a lie that could destroy everything we know about our past. My name's Alex, I'm 29, and until last month, I thought I knew my family better than anyone. I grew up in a small coastal town in Oregon, where secrets don't last long at least, that's what I believed. It was a Thursday morning in late June when my Uncle Greg called out of nowhere. "Alex," he said, his voice tight, "can we meet for coffee? Just you and me, it's important." At 10:15 a.m, I was sitting across from him at the Drift Cafe, the kind of place where the coffee tastes burnt but the view of the harbour makes up for it. Greg looked different thinner, with deep shadows under his eyes. He stirred his cup without drinking. "I don't have much time," he said, "but you need to know something before it's too late." I leaned forward. "Is this about Mom or Dad?" He gave a sharp laugh. "Both, and more." The words came out like broken glass. "Your father isn't who you think he is, and your mother, she's been lying to you since the day you were born." For a second, all I heard was the distant cry of seagulls and the hiss of the espresso machine. My chest tightened. "That's Greg. What the hell are you talking about?" He reached into his jacket and slid a small, oiled envelope across the table. My name was written on it in faded blue ink. "This will explain," he said, "but once you read it, you can't unknow it, and if they find out, you know he trailed off." I stared at the envelope, my hand hovering over it. I didn't open it, not yet. I needed to hear him say it. "Why not?" I asked. Greg's jaw clenched. "Because your father is about to do something with the house, and when he does, he'll lose everything." My pulse was racing. "What do you mean, lose everything?" $240,000 worth of everything, he said flatly. "Money that should be yours." I gripped the envelope, feeling its weight. Inside, something thin and stiff, maybe a photograph, maybe a letter. I could feel my heart beat in my fingertips. Greg stood suddenly, tossing a few bills onto the table. "Read it tonight, alone, and don't tell a soul you've seen me." And just like that, he walked out, leaving me staring at the harbour, the envelope burning in my hand. When I got home, I slid it into the top drawer of my desk without opening it. But that night, at 2:47 a.m, I couldn't take it anymore. I switched on my desk lamp, tore it open, and froze when I saw the first line. The letter was typed on thin, brittle paper that smelled faintly of mildew. At the top was a date, August 14, 1996, 3 months before I was born. I read the first sentence twice, trying to make sense of it. "This is to confirm the private arrangement between Gregory Shaw and Elaine Carter regarding the custody and identity of the child to be born." Custody. Identity. My breath caught. My mom's name is Elaine Carter. Gregory Shaw, my Uncle Greg. The next paragraph was worse. It said my biological father was not Michael Carter, my dad, but an unnamed party whose identity is to be permanently withheld for the safety and stability of the child. I felt my stomach drop. My hands were trembling so badly I almost tore the page. My entire life, my name, my family was built on a lie. I kept reading. There was mention of financial compensation, $40,000 to ensure continued silence, and a formal transfer of parental rights. It was signed by my mother, by Greg, and by someone whose signature was smudged. Then I noticed something else, an attached note, in my mom's handwriting, addressed to Greg. "Keep this safe. If Michael ever finds out, it will destroy us all." I slammed the drawer shut, the paper still in my hand. My apartment felt smaller, the shadows heavier. At 8:15 a.m, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Alex, can you come over tonight? Your father wants to talk about something important." I could barely form words. "Sure, yeah, what's it about?" "You'll find out," she said too quickly. "And Alex?" She hesitated. "Don't talk to Greg. You know how he stirs trouble." My skin prickled. She knew I'd seen him. That night, I drove to my parents' house. The living room smelled like cinnamon candles, same as always, but Dad's face was tight, his jaw working like he was grinding teeth. "We're selling the house," he said without preamble. "Closing in 3 weeks. We've found a buyer for $240,000. This will help us retire comfortably." I stared at him. "You're just selling it, without asking me?" Dad snorted. "You don't live here. You have no say in this." Mom reached for my arm. "It's what's best for everyone." My eyes flicked between them, the rehearsed tones, the absence of warmth. And then it hit me. The letter. The money. The house was part of it. "I don't think this is just about retiring," I said slowly. "Is it?" They both froze. "How much do you really know, Alex?" Dad asked. His voice was lower, dangerous. I took a step back, feeling the folded letter in my pocket. "Enough to know you've been lying to me for 29 years. Mom's face went pale. "Who told you?" Dad demanded. I hesitated, and in that pause, his expression shifted from anger to something colder. "You've been talking to Greg," he said. Not a question. A statement. The silence after Dad's words was heavy, pressing into my ears like deep water. I didn't answer him, but my hesitation was answer enough. His mouth tightened into a thin line. I warned him, Dad muttered, almost to himself. I told him if he meddled again. He didn't finish the sentence. Mom stepped in quickly, her voice sugar-sweet but brittle. Alex, whatever Greg told you, it's nonsense. You know he's jealous of our family. He's been unstable for years. Unstable? I shot back. Because he has a letter signed by you telling him to keep my real father's identity a secret. The words were out before I could stop them. Mom flinched. Dad's eyes darkened. You've been through my things, she asked, her tone now laced with quiet fury. No, I said, Greg gave it to me, and if you think I'm just going to forget it, Dad cut me off. You will forget it, for your own good. Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. It was then the front door opened, and my cousin Emily stepped in, holding a stack of mail. She froze when she saw the three of us standing there, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Emily's 25, fresh out of grad school, and always in the middle of family drama without asking for it. She looked between us, her brow furrowing. What's going on? Nothing you need to worry about, Mom said quickly. Emily glanced at me, eyes narrowing. That's a lie. For a moment I considered staying silent, but something about her presence, her instinct, made me speak. Greg told me about the deal you all made before I was born, about my real father. Emily's mouth fell open. Wait, you're saying Uncle Mike isn't a... Emily. Dad barked, but she ignored him, stepping closer to me. I knew there was something off. Greg tried to talk to me about it once, but I thought he was just drunk. I frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated, then said, a few months ago, he told me someone's been taking money from Grandma's estate, large amounts. He said it was connected to some old family agreement. I didn't believe him until now. My head spun. How much? Emily bit her lip. Close to 40 grand. The number hit me like a punch to the gut, the exact amount mentioned in the letter. Dad's voice turned sharp, almost panicked. Enough, both of you. This ends here. But Emily didn't back down. She crossed her arms. Well, what? You going to threaten us too? Dad's glare shifted from her to me, and something about it made my instinct scream to get out of the house. I grabbed my jacket. If you think I'm just walking away from this, you don't know me at all. As I turned for the door, Dad's voice followed me low, almost like a warning. If you dig into this, Alex, you'll regret it, and so will Greg. I stepped outside into the cold night air, my heart pounding. That was when Emily caught up to me on the porch and whispered, There's something I didn't tell you. Greg isn't just your uncle. She stopped as the porch light flickered, and we both heard the unmistakable sound of a car engine idling at the end of the street. The hum of the idling engine sent a ripple of unease down my spine. Emily and I exchanged a glance, then both looked toward the end of the street. A dark SUV sat there, headlights off, exhaust curling into the cool air. That's not a neighbour's car, Emily murmured. Before I could respond, the SUV pulled away slowly, disappearing around the corner. Emily's voice was low and urgent. We shouldn't talk here. Get in my car. 10 minutes later, we were parked at the edge of Rockwell Park, the lot lit only by a flickering street lamp. A smell of damp pine hung in the air. Emily kept glancing around as if expecting someone to jump out of the shadows. You said Greg isn't just my uncle, I prompted. She took a deep breath. Alex, Greg is your father. The world tilted. I actually laughed a short, stunned sound because my brain refused to process it. That's impossible. It's not, she said firmly. The timelines match, and I know because Greg told me himself after too many beers last Thanksgiving. He said your mom and Dad and Mike couldn't have kids. Greg offered. It was supposed to be a private arrangement, but then your mom decided to pretend Mike was your biological father to keep the family image clean. My stomach churned. That's insane. Emily's eyes softened. It's not the worst part. I leaned back, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles widened. Go on. She lowered her voice. Craig didn't take that 40 grand as hash money. He put it in a trust for you. But Mike found out years later and forced Greg to hand over control. Mike's been using it for himself ever since. I felt heat rush to my face. So, when he sells the house... Emily nodded. It's gone. Every cent that was meant for you. My thoughts were racing. The image of Dad, Mike standing in that living room, telling me I had no say, now had a whole new meaning. Why didn't Greg just tell me all of this outright? I asked. Emily hesitated. Because he's dying, Alex, stage 4 liver cancer. He thought the money didn't matter compared to keeping the peace before he's gone. The words hit harder than I expected. I stared at the windshield, my mind a storm of betrayal and urgency. Where's the proof? Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a worn leather folder. They gave me this in case something happened to him. Bank statements, property records, even a DNA test. My chest tightened. A DNA test? She nodded. Yours and Greg's. I don't know how he got it, but Alex, it's a match. I sat there in the dark, the weight of the truth pressing down like a lead blanket. Somewhere deep inside, a decision crystallized. If Mike thought I'd stay quiet, he didn't know me at all. Emily broke the silence. There's one more thing you need to see. But it's not in here, it's at Greg's place, and if Mike finds out we're going there... Her voice trailed off as headlights swept across the park entrance. A black SUV rolled in. Emily killed the headlights and we sat frozen as the SUV crept through the lot. It passed slowly, the driver's silhouette barely visible, then rolled out again without stopping. "We go," I whispered. She didn't argue. 10 minutes later we were heading up a winding hill toward the outskirts of town, where Greg's small sedan cabin sat half hidden behind overgrown pines. When we pulled in, the place was dark except for a single lamp in the front window. Emily knocked softly, but there was no answer. She glanced at me, then tried the door it opened with a low creak. "Greg, is she called?" No response. Inside, the air smelled of dust and something faintly medicinal. Old Joe's records were stacked near the turntable, a coffee mug still half full on the counter. But the thing that caught my attention was the pile of folders on the kitchen table, each labelled in Greg's sharp handwriting: Trust Fund, Property Deeds, Carter Family Confidential. Emily rifled through one folder and froze. "Alex, look at this." It was a copy of my birth certificate. Only under father's name, someone had typed Gregory Shaw. The type was faded but unmistakable. Beneath it was another sheet, a notarized document, signed by Mike, transferring parental designation to him in exchange for financial consideration. The date matched the letter from the envelope. My stomach turned. So it's real, all of it. Emily's hand shook as she flipped to another document, bank statements showing withdrawals from the trust, all in even $5,000 increments, ending just last month. Then we heard footsteps on the porch. Emily's eyes went wide. She stuffed the papers back into the folder and shoved it into my hands. "Hide it." I ducked into the narrow hallway just as the front door opened. Greg stepped in, looking gaunt and pale, a wool cap pulled low over his head. His eyes widened when he saw Emily. "What are you?" He stopped when I stepped out, the folder under my arm. "I know," I said quietly. He sagged against the wall, his face a mix of relief and dread. "I didn't want you to find out like this." I set the folder on the table. "Why didn't you fight him for the money, for the truth?" Greg rubbed his temples. "Because Mike's not just holding the money, he's holding something else, something that could ruin more than just me, if it comes out, your mom's." He trailed off, glancing toward the window as if checking for shadows. "What is it?" I pressed. Greg's voice dropped to a whisper. "Mike knows who your biological mother really is, and it's not Elaine." For a second, I thought I misheard him. "What?" Greg swallowed hard. "She's not who you think. Elaine raised you, yes, but..." Before he could finish, there was a loud bang outside, like a car door slamming. Then the sound of boots on gravel, fast and heavy. Greg's eyes widened. "Get in the back, now." Emily grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the rear hallway just as the front door handle rattled violently. The rattling turned into pounding, each slam of the door making the thin frame shudder. Greg's voice cut through the noise low, tense. "Back door, go." Emily pulled me toward the kitchen, but before we made it, the front door burst open. Mike stepped inside, his face flushed and twisted with rage. He wasn't alone, another man followed, broad-shouldered, wearing a black windbreaker. "Where is it?" Mike barked. Greg straightened, pale but steady. "You're not taking anything else." Mike's gaze flicked to me, and to the folder still on the table. He took a step forward. "Alex, you don't know what you're doing. Put that down." I held his stare. "You've lied to me my whole life. You stole money meant for me, and now I know you're not even my father." Something dark flashed in his eyes. "Greg's been filling your head with garbage. That trust, it was mine. I earned it when I..." "You bought me," I snapped. Emily moved between us. "We have the documents, Mike, birth certificate, bank statement, DNA test." The man in the windbreaker shifted slightly, his hand hovering near his jacket pocket. My gut told me whatever was inside wasn't good. Greg's voice was calm but shaking at the edges. "If you lay a hand on them, the coppers go to the lawyer. You know the one, Mike Foster. He's had them for weeks." Mike's jaw tightened. "You wouldn't." Greg coughed into his sleeve, a deep, rattling sound. "Try me." The air was electric, every muscle in my body taut. Then Emily did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone, hit record, and said loudly, "Say, Mike, say you took the trust fund." Mike's lips pressed into a thin line, but his silence was all the confirmation I needed. Finally, Greg looked at me, his expression pained. "I need to tell you the rest before I can't. Your biological mother was my sister." The words punched the air out of me. "What?" He nodded slowly. "Her name was Rachel. She died before you were born. Elaine agreed to raise you as her own to keep the scandal quiet. Mike used it to control all of us." My head spun. Rachel. I'd grown up hearing her name in hushed tones, always told she'd moved away young. I never even saw a photo. Mike's voice cut in, hard and cold. "Enough, you're coming with me, Alex." Greg stepped forward, putting himself between us. Over my dead body. The man in the windbreaker reached for his jacket, and that's when red and blue lights flooded the cabin walls, the sound of sirens slicing through the night. The sirens grew louder until they screeched to a halt outside. Mike froze mid-step, his hand half raised toward me. The men in the windbreaker glanced at him, waiting for a signal. A voice boomed from outside. "Please step out of the house now." Greg's eyes darted toward me, and he gave the smallest nod. "Emily," he whispered, "take the folder, go." But Mike moved first, snatching it from the table. "This ends here." Before he could tuck it under his arm, Emily lunged forward and ripped it from his grasp. Paper scattered across the floor like leaves in a storm. The front door burst open, and 2 officers rushed in, guns drawn. "Hands where we can see them." Mike froze, then slowly raised his arms. The man in the windbreaker did the same, but his jaw was clenched, like he was already plotting his next move. It turned out the flashing lights weren't luck. Craig had called the police earlier that day, telling them Mike might try something. He'd also given them a sealed envelope, duplicates of every document in the folder. An officer gathered the papers from the floor while another led Mike outside in handcuffs. His eyes locked on mine as he passed, filled with a mix of fury and something that almost looked like fear. "You just destroyed this family," he hissed. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Later, sitting on Greg's worn sofa with Emily beside me, the reality began to settle. The trust fund wasn't all there. The withdrawals had drained most of it, but enough remained to give me a start. More importantly, the paper trail was undeniable. Mike would face charges for fraud and embezzlement. Greg leaned back, coughing hard, his face pale. "I wish I'd told you sooner," he said. "But at least now, the truth is yours." I swallowed hard, the weight of everything pressing down. "And Rachel?" I asked quietly. Greg smiled faintly, almost sadly. "She was stubborn, brave. You got that from her." We sat in silence, the only sound the ticking of the old wall clock. 3 weeks later, I stood at the harbour, the same spot where Greg had first handed me the envelope. The wind smelled of salt and seaweed. In my pocket was a photograph Greg had given me, Rachel holding me as a newborn, her eyes bright, her smile wide. I'd lost a father I never truly had. I'd gained the truth about a mother I never knew. And I promised myself one thing: no one in this family would ever hold power over me again. When I walked away from the water, I didn't look back.